The mop hit the floor with a wet slap. Elena Rodriguez, that's what her badge said at least, pushed the bucket forward with mechanical precision. Her shoulders hunched, her eyes fixed on the dirty tiles beneath her feet. Gray water swirled around the mop head, mixing with mud and old blood that never quite washed away. 3 weeks at Forward Operating Base Sentinel, hidden in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, and not a single person had looked her in the eye. That was exactly how she wanted it. The mess hall buzzed with morning chaos. Soldiers lined up for breakfast that tasted like cardboard but filled bellies. Coffee that could strip paint. Conversations dancing around the elephant in the room. They were stuck here, cut off by the worst blizzard Colorado had seen in 20 years. Elena kept her head down, mopped left to right, methodical, invisible, a ghost in gray coveralls. "Hey, mop lady." She didn't look up. Lieutenant Ryan Beckett, 26 years old, West Point graduate, biggest mouth on base. Fresh from officer training, never seen real combat, but carried himself like he'd won wars single-handedly. "I'm talking to you, janitor." Elena continued mopping, left to right, invisible. Beckett's boots appeared in her vision. Polished, expensive. Boots that had never dug a foxhole or marched 40 miles with a full pack. He stood with 2 soldiers flanking him, an audience for his performance. "I hear fine, Lieutenant." Elena's voice was flat, empty. "Did you need something?" Beckett laughed, sharp and brittle like breaking glass. "Need something from you?" He turned to his men. "You hear that? The trash thinks I need her help." Private Wyatt Sterling sat 3 tables away. 24 years old, shrapnel wounds from an IED kept him off active duty. Scout training had taught him to see what others missed. Right now, those trained eyes locked on the janitor. Something wasn't right about her. "You know what I think?" Beckett leaned close enough that she could smell coffee on his breath. "I think you're one of those broken refugees. No country, no family, no future. Just a mop and a bucket until you die alone." Elena's jaw tightened. Almost imperceptibly, Wyatt caught it, that tiny movement, that controlled response to an insult that would make most people flinch or cry or fight back. She just stood there, perfectly still, perfectly controlled, like a soldier. "Is there something you need cleaned, Lieutenant?" Same flat voice, same empty eyes. "If not, I have work to do." Beckett's face reddened. "You don't walk away from me." "I'm not walking anywhere. I'm working." For 1 second, Elena's eyes met Beckett's directly. Wyatt felt the temperature drop. He'd seen those eyes before. On snipers. On special operations soldiers. On people who had killed so many times that death became routine. Eyes that measured distances, calculated angles without conscious thought. Eyes that saw threats before they materialized. Beckett felt it too. Stepped back involuntarily before covering with another harsh laugh. "Whatever. Clean up your mess, trash." He walked away. "That's all you're good for anyway." Elena watched them go. Her face showed nothing, but her right hand, hidden at her side, trembled. Wyatt noticed. The wind howled outside like something alive trying to get in. Sergeant Diana Walsh stood at the command post window, watching snow pile against barriers. 32 years old, 8 years Army. She'd seen bad weather before. This was different. This was biblical. "Visibility down to 50 meters, she reported to Captain Nathan Reeves. "Temperature -30 Celsius and dropping. Wind gusts up to 70 kilometers per hour." Reeves rubbed his temples. 38 years old, 2 combat tours, never felt as helpless as now. His command, 71 soldiers and support staff, completely isolated. The blizzard had knocked out their satellite uplink 5 days ago, destroyed their long-range antenna, turned mountain passes into frozen death traps. They were alone. How long until this clears? Meteorology says 7 to 10 days, maybe more. And the wounded? Walsh's expression darkened. 43 soldiers who can't be moved. Most wouldn't survive the first kilometer. Doctor, Sutherland is doing what she can, but we're running low on antibiotics. Infections are spreading. Reeves stared at the tactical map, little plastic markers representing lives under his command. We hold, he said. That's what we do. We hold until the storm breaks or rescue comes. And if rescue doesn't come, then we hold anyway. Walsh hesitated. Sir, it's probably nothing, but Private Sterling has concerns about one of the civilian contractors. Which one? The janitor, Elena Rodriguez. Reeves frowned. The quiet one? Keeps to herself? Sterling thinks she might have military training, says she moves like a soldier. Reeves almost laughed. But Walsh wasn't the type to waste time with nonsense, and Sterling had good instincts. Any evidence? Nothing concrete, just observation. Keep watching her. Let me know if anything changes. Reeves turned back to the map, already dismissing the conversation. He didn't know how wrong he was. Doctor. Emma Sutherland hadn't slept in 36 hours. The surgery had been brutal. Private Michael Kowalski, shrapnel to the abdomen. 3 hours of cutting and stitching barely saved his life. Now she stood outside the surgical tent, letting cold air burn her lungs, trying to remember what it felt like to not be exhausted. You should rest. Emma spun. The janitor stood behind her, mop in hand, silent as a ghost. Jesus, you scared me. I apologize. Elena's voice carried no actual apology. But you've been on your feet too long. Fatigue leads to mistakes. Mistakes lead to dead patients. Emma stared. How would you know? I cleaned operating rooms before, seen surgeons work themselves into errors. Elena's eyes flickered to the surgical tent. Your patient will need monitoring. His vitals were unstable during the procedure. If his blood pressure drops in the next 4 hours, you'll need to open him back up. Emma's mouth opened, closed, opened again. How do you know his vitals were unstable? I was cleaning nearby. You were watching the surgery. Elena shrugged. Hard not to watch when you're mopping the same floor for 3 hours. Something cold crawled up Emma's spine. This janitor had just described surgical complications most nurses would miss, and done it like discussing the weather. Who are you? Elena's expression didn't change. I'm the cleaning lady, doctor, nothing more. She pushed her bucket toward the recovery ward. Get some sleep. Your hands were shaking by the end. Tomorrow's patients need you steady. Emma watched her go, questions burning without answers. Wyatt found the article 3 days after his suspicions began. He sat in the recovery ward, laptop balanced on his knees, searching through military databases he technically wasn't supposed to access. Scout training had taught him more than tracking and reconnaissance. It taught him how to find information, how to piece together patterns from fragments. The article was from 2020, a military journal, mostly classified, but he had friends who owed favors. Captain Kira Blackwood, call sign Silent Angel, confirmed record shot of 3,218 meters in Syria. 11 confirmed kills, presumed KIA in Kandahar, September 2021. The photo was grainy, partially redacted, but even through pixelation, Wyatt could see the features. Same build, same way of holding herself, coiled and controlled. Elena Rodriguez wasn't just military, she was a legend. He kept reading. The article didn't give many details. Most of Silent Angel's missions were classified, but it painted a picture. Young woman, extraordinary talent, trained by her father from childhood. Marine Scout sniper Dale Blackwood, recruited into special operations at 18. By 26, the most effective sniper in her unit. Then Kandahar. The article went vague. A mission gone wrong. 7 operators killed. Only 1 survivor, but no body recovered, listed as KIA, presumed dead. But Wyatt knew the truth now. She wasn't dead. She was pushing a mop at FOB Sentinel, hiding from ghosts he couldn't see. The mess hall was nearly empty when Elena entered that evening. Most soldiers asleep or on duty. Only a handful of night owls picking at cold food. She grabbed a tray, cold meat, colder vegetables, bread 3 days old. Found a corner table far from everyone. Eating was mechanical. Calories in, energy out, nothing more. Mind if I sit? Wyatt stood across from her, tray in hand. Free country. He sat anyway, watching with Scout's eyes that saw too much. You're the janitor everyone talks about. I clean floors. And people talk about you. Lieutenant Beckett runs his mouth. I've heard worse. Silence stretched. Wyatt ate slowly, never breaking eye contact. Elena ignored him, or appeared to. You served, Wyatt said, not a question. I push a mop. That's not what I asked. Elena set down her fork. For the first time, she looked at him directly. Her eyes were gray like winter clouds before a storm. Empty on the surface, but something lurked beneath. Something cold and deep and dangerous. What do you want, Private? The truth. The truth is complicated and none of your business. Fair enough, Wyatt leaned back. But I've been watching you. The way you move, the way you assess threats, the way you position yourself during that surgery. You anticipated every move Dr. Sutherland made. He paused. You're not a janitor. Elena stood, grabbing her tray. You've been in recovery too long. Start seeing ghosts everywhere. Maybe, Wyatt smiled without warmth. Or maybe I'm seeing exactly what's there. Elena walked away without another word. But Wyatt noticed something. Her hands weren't trembling anymore. They were steady, rock steady, like a shooter about to take a shot. The intelligence report came at 00 hours, fragmented and barely readable through storm interference. Captain Reeves stood in the command tent, radio crackling with static. Sergeant Walsh worked the dials, trying to pull signal from noise. Hostile forces, Eastern Mountain Passes, at least 180 fighters, professional, well-armed. Transmission cut out. Walsh tried for 10 minutes to re-establish contact. Nothing but white noise and howling wind. Play back what we got, Reeves ordered. Walsh ran the recording 3 times. Each time, same message. 180 fighters moving through Eastern Passes. Professional mercenaries. Well-armed, well-trained. Heading straight for FOB Sentinel. Target unknown, Walsh read from notes, but their trajectory puts them within striking distance in 36 to 48 hours. Lieutenant Beckett stood at the back, arms crossed. Let them come. We'll cut them down. With what? Walsh's voice was sharp. We've got 28 combat-capable soldiers, most ammunition allocated for defensive positions. They hit us with 180 fighters. We're outnumbered 6 to 1. Then we call for support. We can't. Communications down for 5 days. Then we fall back. With 43 wounded who can't be moved in a blizzard? Walsh shook her head. We'd lose half before clearing the first ridge. Beckett fell silent. For once, arrogance drained from his face. Reeves raised a hand, cutting off argument. Options. Sergeant Major Frank Dawson stepped forward. 52 years old, 30 years Army, seen more combat than everyone else combined. We dig in, he said, voice gravelly. Fortify defensive positions. Set up kill zones at main approaches. Make them pay for every meter. That's your plan? Beckett found his voice. Hope they decide we're not worth it? That's the only plan keeping our wounded alive, Lieutenant. Reeves studied the tactical map. Red markers showed likely enemy routes. Blue markers showed defensive positions. The math was brutal. Do it, he ordered. Fortify everything. Set up overlapping fields of fire. Ration ammunition. Make every round count. And pray that storm breaks before they reach us. The meeting dispersed. Officers and NCOs moved to assignments with grim efficiency. As Walsh headed for the exit, she caught movement in peripheral vision. The janitor, Elena, standing just outside the tent, mop in hand, close enough to hear every word. Their eyes met. Elena turned and walked away, disappearing into snow like a ghost. Walsh's hand moved to her sidearm without thinking. Problem, Sergeant? Dawson appeared beside her. No, sir. Walsh released her weapon. No problem at all. But her heart pounded like she just narrowly avoided something dangerous. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of preparation and dread. Soldiers dug defensive positions in frozen earth, breath crystallizing in bitter air. Picks rang against stone. Shovels scraped through ice. Ammunition was counted, rationed, distributed with precision of men who knew they didn't have enough. Medical supplies moved to the most protected section of camp. Dr. Sutherland and her team prepped for mass casualties, though nobody said the words. And through it all, Elena cleaned. She mopped floors that got dirty again within hours, wiped down surfaces nobody would see, moved through camp like a shadow, noticed by no one except Wyatt, who watched from his recovery cot with growing certainty. She's preparing, he told Walsh during one visit. Preparing for what? Watch her routes. She's not cleaning randomly, she's mapping the base, identifying defensive positions, checking sight lines. You sound paranoid. I sound observant. There's a difference. Walsh didn't argue because she'd started noticing too. The way Elena always positioned herself with clear view of exits. The way she seemed to know where people would be before they got there. The way her eyes tracked movement like a predator watching prey. I talked to the contractor coordinator, Walsh admitted. Her paperwork checks out. Elena Rodriguez, civilian contractor hired through legitimate agency. No military record, no red flags. Paperwork can be faked. I know. Walsh stared at the surgical tent where Elena was currently mopping around Dr. Sutherland's workspace. But if she's hiding something, what's her angle? What does a special operations soldier gain from cleaning floors at a medical outpost? Wyatt was quiet for a long moment. Maybe she's not here to gain anything. What do you mean? Some people run toward fights. Some people run away. Wyatt watched Elena work, movements precise, economical, practiced. Maybe she's running. From what? From herself. Lieutenant Beckett found Elena outside the supply depot next morning. She leaned against the wall, hands cupped around tin of coffee long since cold, staring at the eastern ridge like expecting something to come over it any moment. Still here? Beckett's voice dripped contempt. Figured you'd have run by now. That's what your kind does, right? Run when things get hard? Elena didn't look at him. My kind. Civilians, cowards, people who don't have the guts to pick up a weapon and fight. Fighting isn't about guts, Lieutenant. No? What's it about then? Enlighten me. Elena finally turned her head, gray eyes locking onto his. Fighting is about math, she said quietly. Angles, distances, timing. You calculate the variables, execute the solution, move to the next problem. Her voice dropped lower. Guts have nothing to do with it. Guts get people killed. Beckett's sneer faltered. You talk like you've actually been in combat. I've seen enough to know what it looks like. Have you? He stepped closer, trying to reclaim dominance. Have you ever watched a friend die? Ever had to make choices that keep you up at night? Ever felt a bullet pass so close you could taste the heat? Elena's expression didn't change. Have you? She asked. The question hung like a knife. Beckett opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came. Because the truth was, he hadn't. West Point trained him for war. Leadership schools prepared him for command. But actual combat? Actual life and death decisions with real consequences. He was as green as fresh grass. And somehow, this janitor knew it. That's what I thought. Elena poured out cold coffee and walked past him, shoulder brushing his hard enough to make him stumble. When the shooting starts, Lieutenant, stay behind cover and follow orders. Let people who know what they're doing handle the actual fighting. Who the hell do you think you are? Elena stopped, turned, and for one moment, the mask slipped. Beckett saw something behind those gray eyes, something old and cold and terrifying, something that had seen horrors he couldn't imagine. I'm nobody, Elena said. Just trash with a mop, remember? She walked away, leaving Beckett standing alone in snow, hands shaking for reasons he couldn't explain. That night, Wyatt couldn't sleep. He lay in his recovery cot, staring at canvas ceiling, running scenarios through his mind. The enemy was coming. Everyone knew it. The question wasn't if, but when. And somewhere on this base, a woman with soldier's eyes was hiding secrets that could change everything. A soft sound caught his attention. Footsteps. Careful, measured, barely audible. Wyatt turned his head slowly, keeping breathing even, pretending to sleep. A figure moved through the recovery ward, small, deliberate, checking each patient like a doctor making rounds, but without clipboard or nurse's hurried efficiency. Elena. She paused at each bed, studying faces, monitoring breathing, adjusting blankets with gentle precision. When she reached Wyatt, she stopped. "I know you're awake." Wyatt opened his eyes. "You're good. You're obvious." Elena pulled a chair beside his cot and sat, movements economical despite the late hour. "Why are you watching me, Private?" "Because something's wrong about you." "Lots of things are wrong about me." "You know what I mean." Elena was quiet for a moment. In dim light, her face looked older than her years, weathered, worn, like a blade sharpened too many times. "You were a scout," she said finally, not a question. "Still am, just temporarily benched." "Good scouts notice things. Bad scouts die young." She leaned back. "What have you noticed about me?" "Military training." Elena stood, moving toward the door. "And I'm someone who walked away from that job because I couldn't do it anymore." "What job?" Elena paused at the doorway. Dim light caught her profile, turning her into a silhouette against the night. "The kind of job that leaves ghosts, Private. The kind you never really escape, no matter how far you run." She disappeared into darkness, leaving Wyatt with more questions than answers. But one thing was certain now. And somewhere out in that white wilderness, 180 enemy fighters were moving closer. "Movement!" The shout came from northern perimeter. A lookout, voice cracking with tension. "Enemy scouts! 3 contacts, ridgeline!" Reeves grabbed binoculars, but storm reduced everything beyond 100 meters to ghostly shapes. "Can you confirm?" "Negative, sir. They're gone. But I saw them." The first sign. Enemy probing defenses, testing response times, identifying weak points. It was starting. Reeves turned to Walsh. "Get everyone to battle stations. This is not a drill." "Yes, sir." Walsh sprinted toward communications array, barking orders. Across camp, soldiers moved with grim efficiency. Weapons checked, positions manned, prayers whispered. And in the supply depot, Elena Rodriguez set down her mop and walked to the window. She stared at the eastern ridge where enemy snipers would inevitably set up overlapping fields of fire. Her eyes measured distances, calculated angles, identified shooting positions. Old instincts stirred. Muscle memory she'd spent 3 years trying to suppress. Her hands began to shake. Not from fear, from anticipation. The sniper inside her was waking up, and God help everyone when she finally stopped running. The shaking spread from Elena's hands to her shoulders, then her chest, then her entire body. She gripped the windowsill until knuckles turned white, forcing herself to breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The same technique learned 20 years ago in a training facility whose name was still classified. It didn't help. The enemy was out there. She could feel them like cold pressure against her skull. Years of combat had wired her brain to detect threats before they materialized. Survival instinct carved into neural pathways through thousands of hours of training and dozens of missions where one mistake meant death. Every nerve screamed that death was coming. "You okay?" Elena spun. Dr. Sutherland stood in the doorway, concern etched across exhausted face. "Fine." Elena released the windowsill, grabbed her mop. "Just tired." "You're shaking." "It's cold." Sutherland didn't believe her. That much was obvious. But the doctor had enough problems without adding a janitor's personal issues. The surgical tent needs cleaning, Sutherland said. Private Kowalski's wound shows signs of infection. Operating again in an hour. I'll take care of it. Sutherland nodded and left, glancing back twice before disappearing. Elena waited until footsteps faded, then looked at her hands again. Not from fear, from the terrible, shameful knowledge that part of her wanted this, wanted the fight, wanted the clarity that came from life or death decisions where there was no time for doubt or guilt or crushing weight of 3 years' worth of nightmares. "Damn it," she whispered. Wyatt intercepted her halfway across camp. "They spotted enemy scouts," he said, voice low and urgent. "3 contacts on Northern Ridge. The attack is coming." I heard. "And you're still pushing that mop?" Elena stopped. "What else would I be doing, Private?" "I don't know, maybe whatever you're actually trained for." She turned to face him fully. Wyatt stood his ground, though she saw his weight shift slightly, preparing to move if necessary. "Smart kid, good instincts." "You don't know anything about me," she said. "I know enough. I know you're military. I know you're hiding. And I know when those fighters hit us, we're going to need every capable person we've got." Wyatt stepped closer. "Including you." "I push a mop." "You held a scalpel steady during surgery when the doctor's hands were shaking. You anticipated enemy movement before our scouts spotted them. You positioned yourself like someone who spent years in combat." Wyatt's eyes bored into hers. "You're not a janitor." Elena's jaw tightened. "Even if you're right, which you're not, what difference does it make? One person can't stop 180 fighters. One person in the right position, with the right skills, can change everything." "That sounds like something they teach in scout school." "It's something I learned from watching legends operate." Wyatt paused, measuring his next words. "Legends like Silent Angel." Elena's blood turned to ice. The name hit like a physical blow. Silent Angel. The call sign she'd buried 3 years ago, along with 7 friends, in Afghan mountains. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do." Wyatt didn't blink. "I did research, asked around quietly. There was a sniper, special operations, one of the best who ever lived. 11 confirmed kills, but people say the real number was higher because half her missions are still classified." He watched her face. "Record shot, 3,218 meters in Syria. They called her Silent Angel because she could read wind through sound. Some kind of acoustic sensitivity that let her hear frequencies most people can't detect." Elena's hands had stopped shaking. They were steady now. Perfectly steady, the way they always got when she was about to do something dangerous. "Interesting story," she said quietly. "It gets better. She disappeared after a mission in Kandahar went wrong in September 2021. Entire team killed. Only she survived. They said she died out there, but body never recovered." Wyatt leaned closer. "Some people think she just walked away. Couldn't handle the guilt of being the only one who made it out." Elena stared at him for a long moment. This young soldier who had seen through her disguise, who had pushed her to remember who she was. "If this Silent Angel existed," Elena said slowly, "and if she walked away from that life, maybe she had good reasons. Maybe she saw too much death, caused too much death. Maybe she just wanted to disappear and let the legend die." "Maybe," Wyatt nodded. "But legends don't die that easy, and neither do the skills that made them legends." He turned and walked away, leaving Elena standing alone with her mop and her ghosts. She looked down at her steady hands. "Damn you," she whispered. "Damn you for being right." The alert siren shattered afternoon calm 3 hours later. Elena was cleaning the recovery ward when the wail cut through air. Around her, wounded soldiers jerked awake, eyes wide with primal fear of prey animals sensing predators. "What's happening?" A young corporal with bandaged eyes grabbed her arm. "Are we under attack?" "Not yet." Elena gently removed his grip. "Stay calm, stay down." "How do you know?" "That's the warning siren. Not the attack siren, different pattern. She moved toward entrance. Help is coming, just stay where you are. Outside, soldiers sprinted toward defensive positions. Officers shouted orders lost in wind. Organized preparation dissolved into controlled chaos as adrenaline overrode training. Captain Reeves stood at command post, binoculars pressed to eyes. "Report!" he barked as Walsh reached his position. Enemy forces spotted moving through Eastern Pass. Approximately 50 fighters in advance element. More behind them, numbers unknown. Storms blocking accurate counts. How long until they reach effective range? 15 minutes, maybe 20 if they proceed cautiously. Reeves lowered binoculars. His face had aged 10 years. "They're testing us, sending advance element to probe defenses, identify strong points, then hit us with main force." "Orders, sir?" "Hold positions. Don't fire until they're in effective range. We can't waste ammunition on suppressing fire." He paused. "And the wounded?" "We protect them as long as we can, sir." Reeves nodded slowly. Both knew what that meant. If the perimeter was breached, if enemy reached medical tents, 43 people who couldn't defend themselves would die. "Get everyone ready," he said. "This is it." Walsh saluted and ran to relay orders. Elena watched from behind medical tent, invisible in gray work clothes, calculating angles and distances that had nothing to do with cleaning floors. "You should be inside." She turned. Lieutenant Beckett stood behind her, rifle in hand, combat gear properly fitted. He looked different without the sneer, younger, more afraid. "The janitor quarters are in the main building," he continued. "Most protected structure on base. You'll be safer there." Elena almost laughed. "Thank you for your concern, Lieutenant." "It's not concern, it's practicality." Beckett's voice carried none of its usual contempt, just tired realism. "Civilians in combat zones are liabilities. They panic, get in the way, get soldiers killed trying to protect them. So get inside and stay out of the way." He paused. "And if the main building gets hit, then you die. But at least you won't die in the middle of our firing lanes." He moved past her, then stopped. "For what it's worth," he said without turning, "I'm sorry about what I said before. The trash comments, the insults." His voice dropped. "We're probably all going to die today. Figured I should apologize while I can." Apology accepted. "Good." He started walking again. "Now get inside before I have someone drag you there." Elena watched him go. The arrogant lieutenant had found something resembling humility in face of death. War did that to people, stripped away pretense, revealed who they really were underneath. Some people became better, some became worse. Elena had become both. She walked toward the main building as ordered, but her eyes never stopped calculating. Cover positions, firing angles, fallback routes. The tactical geometry of survival burned into her brain through years of training and combat. The sniper was fully awake now, and she was hungry. The first shots came at dusk. Elena heard them from inside janitor quarters. Sharp cracks cutting through howling wind like thunder through rain. Single shots, probing fire, enemy testing response times, mapping defensive positions. Smart tactics, professional tactics. These weren't irregular fighters or local insurgents. These were trained soldiers who knew exactly what they were doing. Return fire from American positions was disciplined but sparse. Captain Reeves conserving ammunition, refusing to give away full defensive capability. Also smart. But it wouldn't matter if enemy had enough fighters to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Elena moved to window. Through snow and darkness, she could see muzzle flashes on Eastern Ridge. 4 positions, maybe 5. Overlapping fields of fire covering main approaches to camp. Snipers. Her heart rate dropped automatically, breathing slowed, hands steadied to point of absolute stillness. Enemy had snipers, professional ones by positioning, and those snipers were going to kill everyone on this base unless someone took them out. She turned away from window. Not her problem, not her fight. She was a janitor now. just a janitor. A bullet punched through wall 6 inches from her head. Elena dropped flat without thinking. Years of training overriding conscious thought. Another round came through window, spraying glass across floor. Then another, then another. Janitor quarters were being targeted. She crawled toward door, keeping below window line, moving with fluid efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Outside, she could hear screaming. Soldiers caught in open ground. Medical staff trying to reach wounded. Chaos erupting across camp. She reached door and pulled it open. Sergeant Walsh crouched on the other side, weapon drawn, face pale with shock. "They hit the ammunition depot," Walsh gasped. "We've lost 1/3 of our reserves. And they're snipers. They're pinning everyone down. We can't move, can't reposition, can't do anything." "Where's Captain Reeves?" "Command post, but it's in their firing lane. Nobody can reach him without getting shot." Elena looked toward command post. 70 meters of open ground. 4 enemy sniper positions with overlapping coverage. Suicide. Unless you knew how snipers thought, unless you could calculate their timing, their patterns, their blind spots, unless you were one of them. "Stay here," Elena said. "What?" "Stay here, keep your head down, don't move." "Where are you going?" Elena didn't answer. Already moving, sprinting low across compound, using cover that shouldn't exist, timing movements to rhythm of enemy fire. Walsh watched her go, mouth hanging open. The janitor moved like a ghost. Elena reached command post in 43 seconds. She'd counted every one. Captain Reeves looked up from radio, shock breaking through combat mask. "How the hell did you get here?" "Doesn't matter." Elena crouched beside him, breathing steady despite the sprint. "How many snipers?" "What?" "Enemy snipers. How many? Where?" Reeves stared for a long moment. The janitor he'd barely noticed for 3 weeks was suddenly crouched beside him, speaking with authority that belonged in Special Operations briefing room. 4 confirmed positions. Eastern Ridge, maybe a 5th on Northern Slope. Weapons? Precision rifles, probably Dragunov variants based on report signatures, range about 800 meters. Elena processed information instantly. They're using Storm to mask muzzle flash. Smart. But they have to compensate for wind, which means shooting heavier rounds. Slower velocity creates predictable pattern. "How do you know this?" "Do you have a sniper rifle?" Reeves pointed toward armory. "We have 2 M24s, but both our designated marksmen are wounded. They can't—" "Where are the rifles?" "The armory, but you can't reach it. Their snipers have it covered." Elena studied compound through command post window. Armory was 100 meters away through what had become killing field. Bodies lay scattered across ground. Soldiers caught in open when attack began. Blood-stained snow in dark patches that spread slowly in dim light. She didn't look at the bodies. Couldn't look at them. Looking meant thinking, and thinking meant hesitating, and hesitating meant dying. "I can reach it," she said. "Lady, I don't know who you are, but that's 100 meters through crossfire. You'll be dead before you make it halfway." Elena met his eyes. Gray meeting brown. Winter meeting earth. "Captain, I've been dead for 3 years. One more time won't make a difference." She moved before he could stop her. The compound had become killing field. She'd seen worse, had created worse. But that didn't make it easier to cross. She counted seconds between enemy shots, measured distances, calculated angles. There, a gap in coverage, 3 seconds, maybe 4. She ran. Bullets snapped past her head. One tugged at her sleeve. Another kicked snow inches from her foot. But she kept moving, kept counting, kept running until she crashed through armory door and hit floor, rolling. Safe, for now. The rifle was where Reeves said. M24 SWS, bolt action, chambered in 7.62 millimeter. Old, reliable, familiar. She'd trained on this exact model when her father first taught her to shoot. Her hands moved automatically. Check chamber, Load magazine. Adjust scope for wind and temperature. The weapon felt like coming home. She hated that feeling, hated how natural it was, hated how alive she felt with a killing tool in hands. But she didn't have time for hate. She had work to do. The first shot dropped an enemy sniper at 700 meters. Elena worked bolt without thinking, already tracking next target. Scope found movement on ridge. She adjusted for wind. Squeezed trigger. Second sniper fell. Across compound, American soldiers stared in disbelief. Someone was shooting back. Someone was eliminating the snipers who had pinned them down. Captain Reeves grabbed radio. "All units covering fire, move to secondary positions now." Response was immediate. Soldiers who had been trapped found cover. Wounded were dragged to safety. Tide of battle shifted in span of seconds. Elena didn't notice. Already tracking third target. There, 850 meters, nearly maximum effective range. Wind gusting to 40 knots. She exhaled slowly. Squeezed. Third sniper dropped. "Who the hell is that?" someone shouted. "The janitor," Wyatt's voice carried clear across confusion. "It's the damn janitor." Elena shifted position, scanning for fourth sniper. Found him. Adjusted. Fired. Miss. Wind had shifted. Fourth sniper ducked back into cover, alerted now to threat. "Come on," she whispered. "Show yourself." 5 seconds. 10. 20. Muzzle flash on northern slope. Not the fourth sniper. The fifth. The one Captain Reeves hadn't confirmed. Elena swung rifle. Too far. At least 900 meters. Beyond effective range in these conditions. Fifth sniper fired. Lieutenant Beckett screamed as round took him in leg, shattering bone and dropping him in open. "No!" Elena tracked muzzle flash. 900 meters. 40-knot crosswind. Temperature dropping, reducing bullet velocity by 6%. Impossible shot. She took it anyway. Rifle kicked against shoulder. Round left barrel at 2,800 feet per second. It arced through driving snow, fighting wind and gravity, and every law of physics that said it should miss. It didn't miss. Fifth sniper fell backward, dead before he hit ground. Elena exhaled. Then fourth sniper emerged from cover and put 3 rounds through armory wall. She dropped flat as bullets tore through space where her head had been. Wood splintered. Metal shrieked. Fourth sniper had found her position, had waited for her to make impossible shot, had used that moment of distraction to line up his own kill. Professional. Elena rolled to new cover as rounds continued punching through walls. Fourth sniper was adjusting, tracking her movement, trying to anticipate where she'd emerge. She had maybe 3 seconds before he figured it out. 2. 1. Elena came up in position he hadn't expected, already aiming, already compensating, already squeezing trigger. Fourth sniper's head snapped back. Silence fell across compound. For one long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed. Then Wyatt's voice cut through night. "Enemy snipers eliminated. All 4 down. Correction, all 5 down." Elena lowered rifle. 5 men, 5 shots, 5 bodies. 5 more ghosts to add to collection that haunted her dreams. And the worst part, the shameful, guilty, horrible part, was that it felt good. Sergeant Walsh's voice cut through fog. Elena looked up to find Sergeant standing in armory doorway, weapon drawn, eyes wide with mixture of fear and awe. "You need to come with me. Now." "I'm not finished." Elena's voice sounded distant even to her own ears. "Those were just advanced team. Main force is still out there. 180 fighters, maybe more. They'll regroup and hit us again. Then let soldiers handle it." "What soldiers?" Elena gestured toward compound. "Half your people are wounded. Third of your ammunition is gone. Communications down. Extraction impossible. You've got 43 patients who can't be moved." She picked up rifle again. "You don't have soldiers. You have targets." Walsh's jaw tightened. Who the hell are you? Nobody. Nobody doesn't shoot like that. Nobody doesn't take out 4 snipers in a blizzard at ranges that shouldn't be possible. Walsh stepped closer. I need answers. You need to survive night. Answers can wait. Elena pushed past her and headed toward command post, rifle slung over shoulder like it belonged there, like she'd never stopped carrying it. Walsh followed, struggling to keep pace with janitor's sudden transformation from invisible contractor to tactical operator. Captain Reeves met them halfway, face pale with shock and something else. Something that looked like hope. You, he pointed at Elena. Whoever you are, talk, now. Later. Not later, now. Reeves grabbed her arm, pulling her to stop. My soldiers just watched a cleaning lady eliminate an enemy sniper team with shots that shouldn't be humanly possible. I need to know who I'm dealing with. Elena looked at his hand on her arm, then at his face, then back at his hand. Reeves let go. My name is Kira Blackwood, she said quietly. First time she'd spoken that name aloud in 3 years. It felt strange on her tongue, like a word from a language she'd forgotten. That's all you need to know. That's not enough. It's all you're getting. She turned toward Eastern Ridge, visible through gaps in snow. Enemy lost their snipers, which means they've lost tactical advantage. They'll either retreat and regroup or push forward with full assault. She paused, measuring probabilities. If they're professionals, and they are, they'll assault. They can't afford to let us reinforce or repair defenses. Attack is coming within minutes. How long do we have? Not long enough. Reeves's face went even paler. We're not ready. Then get ready. Kira checked rifle magazine. 3 rounds left. Where's your ammunition supply? We have about 200 rounds of 7.62 remaining for sniper rifles. Another 500 of 5.56 for standard rifles. That's not enough. I know. Kira closed eyes for a moment, running calculations she hadn't used in 3 years. Force ratios, ammunition consumption rates, defensive sustainability metrics. Math was brutal. You can hold them for maybe 20 minutes, she said finally. After that, you'll be down to hand-to-hand combat. Against 180 fighters, that's not a fight, that's a massacre. Then what do we do? You hold line. Kira slung rifle across back. I'll thin their numbers. Alone? I work better alone. Reeves stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. Maybe walking back into combat after 3 years of running was definition of insanity. But insanity was all they had left. What's your plan? Reeves asked. I'm going to kill as many of them as I can before they reach your perimeter. Every fighter I drop is one less your soldiers have to face. Kira started walking toward Eastern Approach. Keep your people focused on defensive positions. Don't let them break formation. And whatever happens, don't come looking for me. Why not? She stopped but didn't turn. Because if you come looking for me, you'll find bodies. And you might not be able to tell which ones are enemies. She disappeared into snow before Reeves could respond. Walsh moved to his side, watching darkness swallow Kira whole. Sir, we can't just let her go out there alone. We can't stop her either. Reeves watched the point where Kira had vanished. Did you see her eyes, Sergeant? That woman has seen things that would break most soldiers, and she's still standing. He turned back toward command post. All we can do now is pray she's as good as she seems. And if she's not? Reeves didn't answer, didn't have to. Kira moved through storm like she'd been born in it. Snow-pelted face, wind tore at clothes. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. None of it mattered. She'd trained for worse, operated in worse, survived worse. Rifle felt natural in hands, heavy but familiar. Extension of body that she'd spent 3 years trying to amputate. Welcome back, silent angel. She pushed thought away and focused on surroundings. Sound traveled strangely in blizzards, but she could hear them. Boots crunching through snow, voices calling out in English, American English, equipment rattling as fighters moved into position. Close, very close. Kira dropped to one knee and raised rifle. Through scope, she saw shapes moving through white curtain. 10 meters. 20. Whole squad advancing in formation, confident that sniper threat had been eliminated. They were wrong. First shot dropped point man before anyone realized what was happening. Kira worked bolt, acquired second target, fired. Another body fell. Squad scattered, diving for cover that didn't exist in open ground. She tracked movement, identified squad leader by radio, put round through his chest. 3 down, 4 to go. She relocated before return fire could find her, moving 50 meters through snow to new position. Surviving squad members were pinned, unable to advance or retreat without exposing themselves. Perfect. She picked them off one by one, methodical, patient, every shot a kill. By time last fighter fell, Kira's magazine was empty. She reached for spare and found nothing. She'd burned through ammunition faster than planned. That meant scavenging from dead. She moved toward nearest body, keeping low, eyes scanning for additional threats. Dead fighter carried Dragunov variant, similar to what she'd been using. She checked chamber, found it loaded, stripped ammunition from 2 more bodies. 18 rounds. Not much, but enough. Voice crackled from radio on one of corpses. She didn't understand words. They were speaking in some kind of code, but she understood tone. Angry, demanding. Main force was asking why advanced squad had gone silent. They'd know something was wrong now. They'd adapt. Good. She wanted them afraid. Main assault came 15 minutes later. Kira heard it before she saw it. Rumble of engines. Coordinated shouts of infantry formations. Distinctive crack of suppressive fire meant to keep defenders pinned while assault teams advanced. Professional. Organized. Deadly. She positioned herself on small rise that overlooked main approach to base. From here, she could see entire enemy formation through gaps in storm. At least 150 fighters moving in 3 waves. Support weapons teams setting up covering positions. Squad leaders directing men with hand signals. This wasn't raid, this was execution. Kira calculated angles, identified priority targets, started shooting. First round took out squad leader. Second dropped fighter operating machine gun. Third and fourth eliminated 2 more leaders directing their men toward cover. Enemy formation staggered. Officers went down. Communication broke. Coordinated assault dissolved into chaos as fighters lost direction and discipline. Kira kept shooting. Round 5, round 6, round 7. Each shot created more confusion. Each kill spread more fear. But she was running out of ammunition again. An enemy was adapting. Their remaining officers had figured out that single shooter was causing havoc. Fire started concentrating on her position. Time to move. She slid down backside of rise, just as bullets tore through space she'd occupied. Relocated 50 meters, found new cover, resumed firing. Pattern repeated 3 more times. Shoot, relocate, shoot again. By time her ammunition ran dry, she'd killed 7 fighters and wounded at least 12 more. Enemy assault had stalled completely. Their advance turned into confused retreat as soldiers tried to find cover from ghosts they couldn't see. But Kira knew it wouldn't last. They'd regroup, reorganize, come again with overwhelming force. And she had no more bullets. She made her way back toward base, moving quickly through terrain she'd memorized during 3 weeks of supposedly mindless cleaning. Every route, every hiding spot, every potential defensive position. Old habits died hard. Wyatt met her at perimeter, rifle ready, eyes sharp despite wounds. "You're alive." Disappointed? Relieved. He fell into step beside her. "We heard shooting. Figured either you were winning or we were about to have company." "Both. I bought us maybe 30 minutes. After that, they'll hit us with everything they have." "How many did you get?" 7 confirmed, maybe more. Wyatt stopped walking. 7. In that storm, with limited ammunition. I had good angles. You had impossible angles. He shook his head slowly. Silent Angel. It's really you, isn't it? Kira kept walking. That name doesn't mean anything anymore. It means everything to soldiers in there. Wyatt caught up with her. I told them after you left. Told them who you were. What you'd done. Legendary sniper who disappeared in Kandahar. Kira spun on him, anger flashing in eyes. You had no right. I had every right. Those men are about to die. They deserve to know that a legend is fighting beside them. Wyatt held her gaze without flinching. You can hate me later. Right now they need hope, and you're all the hope we've got. Kira wanted to argue, wanted to rage at this young soldier who had exposed her secret without permission. But he was right. Hope was all they had left. Where's Captain Reeves? Command post, trying to raise battalion on emergency frequencies. Any luck? No. Kira nodded and headed toward command post. As she walked, she became aware of eyes following her. Soldiers watching from defensive positions. Wounded men propped up on stretchers, all staring at woman who had transformed from invisible janitor to legendary warrior. She felt their hope, their desperation, their need for someone to believe in. It was weight she'd sworn never to carry again. Captain Reeves looked up as she entered command post. You're back. For now. Casualty count? Theirs or ours? Theirs. 7 confirmed kills. Their assault is stalled, but they'll regroup within 30 minutes. Reeves studied her face. Can we hold? Not for long. Kira grabbed tactical map and spread it across table. They'll change tactics, hit us from multiple directions simultaneously, try to overwhelm defensive positions. She traced enemy approach routes with finger. But we don't need to hold forever. We just need to make them bleed enough that they decide we're not worth the cost. You think that's possible? It's possible if we're smart. Kira pointed to 3 positions on map. These are your kill zones. Concentrate firepower here, here, and here. Make every round count. Keep reserve forces mobile. Enemy will probe for weak points. When they find one, reserves need to plug gap immediately. Reeves studied map. That's solid defensive plan. It's the only plan that gives us a chance. And what about you? Kira looked up from map. I'm going to find their commander. What? Every army has a head. Cut off head, body dies. She picked up rifle from weapons rack. Their commander will be directing assault from protected position, probably on one of the ridges where he can see whole battlefield. If I can find him, if I can take him out, their coordination collapses. That's suicide. Maybe, Kira checked rifle action, but it's better than watching everyone here die slowly. I can't let you go out there alone. You can't stop me. She met his eyes. Captain, I've spent 3 years running from who I am, running from what I can do. I'm done running. She paused. Those soldiers out there, wounded in medical tent, they're going to die unless someone does something drastic. I'm the only one who can do that something. Reeves was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, voice was heavy with resignation. What do you need? Ammunition, as much as you can spare, and a distraction. What kind of distraction? When assault comes, I need them focused on your defensive positions. Lights, noise, movement, anything that draws attention away from ridges. You'll be completely exposed out there. I know. Reeves extended hand. It's been an honor, Captain Blackwood. Whatever happens. Kira shook it. First time she'd been called captain in 3 years. Rank felt strange, like clothes that didn't fit anymore. The honor's mine, Captain Reeves. Take care of your people. She left command post and headed toward eastern perimeter, where enemy would make their final push. Behind her, Reeves began issuing orders that would determine whether anyone on this base saw another sunrise. Wyatt caught up with her at edge of compound. I'm coming with you. No, I wasn't asking. Kira stopped and faced him. You're wounded. You'd slow me down, and you'd probably get us both killed. Maybe. Wyatt fell into step beside her despite objections. But you'll need someone to watch your back out there. Someone who can spot for you while you're focused on shot. I've always worked alone. Maybe that's why you're still running. Kira wanted to argue, but something in Wyatt's eyes stopped her. He reminded her of someone, young soldier from another lifetime, soldier who had followed her into impossible situations and never questioned, never hesitated, never doubted. Soldier who had died in Kandahar because she missed something she should have seen. If you come with me, you follow my orders. No questions, no hesitation. Understood? Understood. And if I tell you to run, you run. Don't look back. Don't try to help me, just run. Wyatt nodded. Understood. Kira looked at him for a long moment, seeing ghost of her dead teammate in his determined young face. Then let's go find their commander. They moved into Storm together, leaving relative safety of base for chaos of battlefield beyond. Behind them, enemy assault began with roar of gunfire and thunder of explosions. Final battle had started, and Kira Blackwood, woman who had tried so hard to be invisible, was about to remind the world why they once called her Silent Angel. Enemy commander would never see her coming. None of them ever did. Storm swallowed them whole within seconds. Kira moved through white chaos like predator stalking prey, every sense heightened, every nerve alive with electricity of combat. Behind her, Wyatt struggled to keep pace, wounded legs screaming with each step. Stay close, Kira whispered without turning, and stay quiet. How can you even see where we're going? I can't, but I know where they'll be. She led him along route that shouldn't exist, threading between enemy positions with precision of someone who had spent lifetime reading battlefields. Twice they passed within meters of fighter patrols. Both times Kira pulled Wyatt into cover before enemy even knew they were there. How do you do that? Wyatt breathed after second near miss. Do what? Know where they are before they appear? Kira was quiet for a moment, listening to Storm. You listen, not to sounds, to silences. Storm has rhythm. When that rhythm breaks, something's there. They didn't teach us that in scout school. They don't teach it anywhere. You either learn it or you die. They pushed deeper into enemy territory, moving away from base toward high ground, where commander would position himself to oversee assault of this scale. Behind them, battle raged. Kira could hear distinctive crack of American rifles, mixed with heavier thunder of enemy weapons. Explosions punctuated gunfire at irregular intervals. Men were dying. We should go back, Wyatt said. Help them. We help them by finishing this. But they're being overrun. Kira stopped and turned to face him. In dim light, her eyes were hard as steel. If we go back now, we die with them. Only way anyone survives is if we take out their command structure. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to meet her gaze. I know it's hard. I know it feels wrong. But trust me, this is how we save them. Wyatt wanted to argue. She could see it in face. But he nodded slowly and fell back into formation. They continued climbing. Enemy commander had chosen position well. Kira spotted it from 300 meters out. Small cluster of fighters surrounding what looked like communications array, radios, maps, infrastructure of command. And in center of it all, man in tactical gear speaking rapidly into handset while gesturing toward base below. There, Kira whispered. That's our target. Wyatt squinted through snow. I count 12 guards plus commander. I count 14, 2 more on reverse slope. How do we get to him? Kira studied position, calculating angles, distances, probabilities. Guards were spread in defensive perimeter, professional positioning, no obvious gaps. But there were always gaps if you knew where to look. I'll take commander, she said. You cover my withdrawal. That's suicide. That's the job. Kira, listen to me. Wyatt grabbed her shoulder, pulling her to face him. I didn't come out here to watch you die. There has to be another way. There isn't. She removed his hand gently but firmly. I've been doing this for 20 years, Wyatt. I know what's possible. and what isn't. This shot is possible. Getting out afterward? She shrugged. We'll see. That's not good enough. It's all I've got. Kira moved to firing position, settling into snow with practiced ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Rifle came up, scope found its target. But wait, she pulled back from scope, recalculating. Distance, wind, visibility, temperature. This wasn't 800 meters. This was farther, much farther. Wyatt pulled out rangefinder, read it again. Face went pale. Kira, distance is 3,218 meters. Kira's breath caught. 3,218 meters. Her record. Syria, 2020. The shot that made her legend. The distance she'd sworn never to attempt again. That's, Wyatt's voice cracked, that's your record. You're going to try to match your own record? In worse conditions? Not match it, Kira settled back into position. Exceed it, psychologically. This is impossible. Silent Angel doesn't do impossible. She does necessary. She began her calculations. Wind speed, 62 knots, gusting. Temperature, -32 Celsius. Barometric pressure dropping. Storm intensifying. Every variable working against her. She closed her eyes. Listened. There, frequency change in wind, 52 hertz. Slight harmonic shift indicating temporary lull in gusts. Window of 3 seconds, maybe. Her hands moved across scope. 47 clicks elevation, 12 mils windage, compensating for Coriolis effect at extreme range. Accounting for bullet drop over 4.2 seconds of flight time. Mathematics of death. Wind 62 knots, gusting, Wyatt called softly. Temperature -32. Range 3218. Kira, that's beyond possible. Then I'll make it possible. She settled her breathing, found rhythm of heartbeat, let world narrow to tiny circle of scope and distant figure standing at its center. Commander raised radio, issuing another order that would send more men to die. Kira heard it again. 52 hertz. The wind singing in frequency only she could hear. Her heart rate dropped to 48 beats per minute. Breathing slowed to 4 breaths per minute. Body entering state of absolute calm that only came in moment before kill. She exhaled, held, squeezed trigger. Rifle kicked against shoulder. Bullet left barrel at 2,800 feet per second. Time seemed to slow. Wyatt watched through scope as round arced through storm. 4.2 seconds of flight. Climbing, falling, fighting wind and gravity and physics itself. Commander looked up. Too late. Bullet took him center mass. Through chest, through heart, through life. He fell, dead before hitting ground. Silence. Then chaos. Command staff scattered, officers diving for cover, guards searching wildly for shooter they couldn't see. Kira worked bolt, already tracking secondary target. Officer running for cover. She squeezed. He fell. Again. Communications specialist. He fell. Again. Guard with radio. He fell. 4 shots. 4 kills. 3,218 meters. Conditions worse than Syria. Silent Angel had returned, and she was angry. Below, assault on base faltered. Fighters who had been advancing with confidence suddenly hesitated. Units lost coordination. Organized attack dissolved into scattered firefights. It's working, Wyatt said. They're falling back. Not falling back. Regrouping. Kira scanned enemy positions. They'll figure out what happened soon, and then they'll come for us. So we run? No. Kira stood, slinging rifle over shoulder. We push. Push? There's 2 of us against 100 of them. There's 1 of me. Kira looked at him. You're going back to base. The hell I am. Wyatt, you've done your job. You spotted for me. You got me here. But what comes next isn't something you're trained for. She paused. I'm going to hunt them, one by one, make them pay for every meter of ground, make them bleed until they decide this fight isn't worth it. You'll die out there. Probably. She smiled, and for just a moment she looked almost at peace. But I'll take a lot of them with me, and maybe that'll be enough to save people down there. Kira, go, now, before they pin us down. Wyatt stood frozen, torn between duty and something he couldn't name. This woman, this legend he'd discovered hiding in plain sight, was walking into certain death to save people who had treated her like garbage. Why? He asked. Why sacrifice yourself for them? Kira paused, back to him, face hidden. Because 3 years ago, I let my team die. 7 people who trusted me. 7 people I should have saved. Her voice cracked slightly. I can't bring them back. But maybe I can make sure nobody else dies because I wasn't there when they needed me. That wasn't your fault. Kandahar. Whatever happened there, it wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. Kira turned to face him one last time. I was Silent Angel, best sniper in special operations. The one who never missed, never failed, never lost anyone under her watch. Tears glistened in eyes, freezing on cheeks in bitter cold. And then I missed. I failed. And 7 people paid the price. So this is penance. This is justice. She started walking toward enemy positions. Now go, Wyatt. Tell them what happened here. Tell them Silent Angel died the way she should have died 3 years ago, protecting the people who counted on her. Kira, she didn't turn around. At least tell me your full name, your real name, so I can tell them properly. Kira stopped. For a long moment, she stood motionless against howling wind. Captain Kira Blackwood, she said finally, United States Army Special Operations, service number 318-4729B, call sign, Silent Angel. Pause. Daughter of Marine Scout Sniper Dale Blackwood, student of war, teacher of death, and the woman who finally learned that some debts can only be paid in blood. Then she disappeared into storm. Wyatt watched her go, heartbreaking for a woman he barely knew, but would never forget. Good hunting, Silent Angel, he whispered. Then he turned and ran toward base, carrying Legend's name back to people she was dying to save. Kira moved through enemy territory like death itself. She didn't hunt them. She eliminated threats. Patrol, 4 fighters behind rocks, 4 shots, 4 bodies. Squad, 6 men advancing, flanked them. 2 dropped before others realized. 4 more fell running. Heavy weapons team, gunner, loader, spotter, 3 shots, weapons silent forever. Each engagement depleted ammunition. Each firefight pushed her closer to exhaustion, but she didn't stop. Every enemy killed was one less threat to base, one less bullet aimed at wounded soldiers, one more step toward redemption. Her magazine ran dry after 7th engagement. Kira dropped rifle, drew sidearm. 9 rounds, not enough for what was coming, but it would have to do. She found them near base perimeter, 20 fighters preparing for final push. Last organized resistance. If they reached medical tent, everyone inside would die. Kira checked pistol. 9 rounds against 20 fighters. Impossible odds. She'd faced worse. She stepped out of cover and started shooting. First 3 dropped before anyone knew what was happening. 4th saw her, raised weapon. She shot him through eye. 5th and 6th fell to rounds 5 and 6. 3 bullets left, 14 enemies remaining. They scattered, seeking cover, returning fire. Kira moved like smoke. Impossible to track, impossible to pin down. 2 more fell to 7th and 8th shots. 1 bullet left, 12 enemies. She saved it. Instead of shooting, she charged. She moved through them like hurricane. She moved through them like hurricane, using their own weapons, turning every kill into opportunity for next. By time she ran out of enemies, she was covered in blood that wasn't hers, holding rifle that wasn't hers, standing in circle of bodies that would never threaten anyone again. Assault on base had stopped. Remaining enemy fighters, seeing their comrades fall to single impossible warrior, broke and ran. They scattered into storm, abandoning equipment, abandoning positions, abandoning everything in desperate flight from Ghost, who hunted them. Kira stood alone in snow watching them go. Her body screamed with exhaustion. Vision blurred. Legs wouldn't hold much longer, but she was alive. Against all odds, she was still alive. Kira! Sergeant Walsh's voice cut through wind. Kira turned to see Sergeant leading squad toward her position. Walsh stopped, staring at carnage surrounding Kira. Bodies everywhere. Blood staining snow in patterns that told stories of violence and desperation. "My God," Walsh whispered. "You did all this?" Kira looked at bodies, counted them. 11. 7 with rifle, 4 in final engagement. 11 total. Exactly 11. "I did what needed doing," she said quietly. "You saved us. You saved all of us." Kira shook her head. "I just evened odds. Your people did rest." Walsh stepped closer, voice dropping to something almost like reverence. "Enemy is retreating. All of them. They're abandoning assault." She paused. "Wyatt told us who you are. Silent Angel. We thought you were dead." "I was." Kira looked toward base where fires were burning and wounded soldiers were being treated. "Maybe I still am." "Come back with us. Let doctors look at you." "I'm fine. You're covered in blood." "Not mine." But as she said it, Kira's legs buckled. Walsh caught her. "You're in shock. We need to get you medical attention." Kira wanted to argue, but exhaustion was overwhelming. Body was shutting down. 3 years of running catching up in single moment. "Okay," she whispered. "Take me back." They walked toward base together. Silent Angel was coming home. Dr. Sutherland examined Kira with growing alarm in medical tent. "Rhabdomyolysis. Your muscles are literally breaking down. Myoglobin proteins flooding your bloodstream." She checked vitals. "Acute kidney injury. Grade 2 frostbite on both feet. You'll lose sensation for weeks, maybe permanently." She placed Kira on scale. "You've lost 9 pounds. 125 down to 116. Your core temperature is 89 degrees. Sutherland's voice dropped. 6 more hours out there and you would have died. Your body was shutting down." Kira closed eyes. "But I didn't. They're alive. That's what matters. You need rest. Real rest. You're not moving for at least 48 hours. The enemy is gone. Retreated. You won. Now rest." Captain Reeves entered tent. "Casualty report. 9 killed in action, 27 wounded, but 62 alive because of you. 9 dead, not 7, but close enough to tear open wounds that had never really healed." "Their names," Kira said. Reeves recited them. 9 names. 9 soldiers who had died while she was hunting enemies. 9 more ghosts. "It's not your fault," Wyatt said, appearing at her side. "You saved everyone else. You can't save everyone." "I know," Kira opened eyes, "but knowing doesn't make it easier." Storm broke at dawn. Kira stood at edge of compound, supported by Walsh, watching clouds part for first time in week. Pale sunlight touched snow, turning battlefield into something almost beautiful. Almost. Rescue helicopters appeared on horizon within hours. Familiar thump of rotors echoed across valley as medical evacuation teams descended. Wounded soldiers loaded onto stretchers, carried to waiting aircraft, flown toward hospitals in safety and futures that might have been stolen. Captain Reeves found Kira watching evacuation from distance. "There's room on next flight," he said. "You should go with medical staff." "I'm not medical staff." "No, you're not." Reeves stood beside her. "But you're also not really a janitor." "Are you, Captain Blackwood?" Kira almost smiled. "I cleaned a lot of floors these past 3 weeks." "That you did." Reeves was quiet for a moment. I need to know what happens next, for you. I don't understand. Right now, only handful of people know who you really are. Wyatt, Walsh, Sutherland, me. We can keep it that way if that's what you want. He turned to look at her. Let you go back to being nobody if that's what you need. Why would you do that? Because whatever drove you into hiding, you deserve the chance to keep running if that's what you need. Offer hung in air. Chance to vanish again. What's the alternative? Reeves reached into pocket, pulled out folded document. I received communications from battalion headquarters this morning. Someone at very high level has been looking for you. Has been looking for 3 years. He handed her paper. Kira unfolded it. Hands started shaking again. Document was military communication. Official channels, highest priority. If Captain Kira Blackwood is alive, she deserves to know the truth about Kandahar. Contact General Dale Blackwood immediately. Priority Alpha. General Dale Blackwood, her father. What truth? Kira whispered. I don't know, but General Blackwood is flying here personally to speak with you. Reeves checked watch. He should arrive within an hour. Kira's mind raced. Her father, coming here to tell her something about Kandahar she didn't know. 3 years believing she was responsible for her team's death. And now her father, man who had taught her to shoot, who had built her into weapon she'd become, was flying into war zone to tell her something she didn't know about. Worst day of her life. Hour later, helicopter touched down. Kira stood at distance, watching as figure climbed out. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with careful precision of man in his 60s who had spent lifetime in combat. General Dale Blackwood, 67 years old, gray hair cropped military short, eyes that had seen too much. Her father. He spotted her immediately, would have recognized her anywhere. They stood 50 meters apart, separated by 3 years of silence and pain. Then Dale started walking toward her. Kira's feet moved without conscious thought. They met in middle of compound, surrounded by soldiers and debris and aftermath of violence. Kira, Dale's voice cracked on her name. My God, you're really alive. Dad. He pulled her into hugs so tight it hurt. Kira felt tears coming, first real tears in 3 years. She fought them, tried to maintain control, but she was so tired of fighting. She let tears come. They stood like that for a long moment, father and daughter, soldier and soldier. Finally, Dale pulled back, his own eyes wet. I've been looking for you for 3 years, he said. When they told me you were dead, I didn't believe it. I sent search teams, intelligence assets, spent 6 months trying to find any trace. He shook your head slowly. And you were here the whole time, cleaning floors. I needed to disappear. I understand why. Dale's expression darkened. There are things you don't know, things I should have told you before that mission. What things? The ambush in Kandahar wasn't your fault. Words didn't make sense. Kira heard them, processed them, but couldn't understand. What? Intelligence failure that led your team into that valley wasn't failure at all. It was deliberate. World tilted. Kira felt knees weaken. Wyatt appeared from somewhere, caught her, helped her stay upright. Deliberate? She repeated numbly. There was Mole. Dale's voice hardened with barely controlled rage. Someone inside our intelligence apparatus, feeding information to enemy combatants. They knew your team was coming. They knew exactly when and where. He paused. Your team wasn't ambushed because you missed something. They were betrayed. Kira's legs gave out completely. She didn't fall. Wyatt was there, lowering her gently to sit on equipment crate. 3 years of self-imposed punishment. 3 years believing she was failure, based on lie. Betrayed, she whispered. I found Mole 6 months after Kandahar. Colonel David Garrison, former Navy SEAL, selling intelligence to highest bidder for years. Dale's jaw tightened. He's in military prison now, life without parole. But by then, you were gone. Everyone thought you were dead. Dale knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Kira, I am so sorry. You carried that guilt for nothing. Tears streamed down Kira's face freely now. 3 years of exile, all based on lie. Jake, Lisa, Matt, Rachel, Ethan, Amy, Isaac. She spoke their names like prayer. They died because of politics, because of money, because someone sold them out. Yes, not because I wasn't good enough. You were always good enough. Dale pulled her into another embrace. Always more than good enough. Best I ever trained, best I ever knew. He pulled back, forcing her to meet his eyes. What happened in Kandahar? That wasn't end of your story. It was just a chapter, a terrible chapter. But today you wrote new one. I killed people, Dad. You saved people, 62 of them. 62 soldiers who get to go home because you remembered who you were. Lieutenant Beckett appeared, arm in sling, leg bandaged. He approached slowly, hesitantly. Captain Blackwood. His voice was small, humble. I wanted to... He seemed to struggle with words. Then he knelt in snow in front of her. I called you worthless. I treated you like garbage, and you saved my life. Tears welled in eyes. How do I live with that? Kira looked at him, this young officer who had found humility in hardest possible way. By being better, she said quietly. By remembering this moment every time you're tempted to judge someone. By checking your assumptions about people. I will. Beckett pulled out small notebook. I'm writing it down. Check your assumptions every day. I swear it. Then stand up, Lieutenant. Beckett stood, wiping eyes. Thank you for everything. He walked away. Dale reached into jacket, pulled out another document. There's one more thing. Pentagon wants to restore your rank. Issue Medal of Honor for Kandahar in what you did here. Full military ceremony. Kira took paper, read it. Commendations, honors, recognition, everything she'd once wanted. I can't accept this, she said. Why not? Because I've taken enough lives, Dad. I can't spend rest of mine being celebrated for it. She handed paper back. I'm done being weapon. Then what will you do? Kira looked across compound. Wounded being loaded onto helicopters. Medics working to save lives. Dr. Sutherland coordinating evacuations. I don't know yet, she said honestly, but something that helps people. Something that builds instead of destroys. Dale studied her face, then smiled, proud and sad at same time. Your mother would be proud of you, he said. Claire always believed that strongest warriors were ones who chose peace. I remember. Kira's voice was soft. She told me that day before she died. Hardest shot is knowing when not to pull trigger. She was right. 6 months later, small recovery center opened in Laramie, Wyoming. Building was modest, clean, welcoming. Sign hung above entrance. Blackwood Recovery Center for those who served. Inside, Kira Blackwood, no longer captain, no longer silent angel, just Kira, helped young veteran work through panic attack, PTSD from deployment. Same demons she fought every night. It gets better, she told him. Not easy, but better, I promise. Dale appeared in doorway, carrying supplies. Her father had retired from Army, moved to Wyoming to help her build this place. Together, they ran programs for veterans struggling with transition from war to peace, teaching them that survival wasn't about how many enemies you killed. It was about how many people you saved, starting with yourself. Wyatt visited that afternoon. He'd been promoted to sergeant, was teaching scout tactics at Fort Benning, but he made trip to Wyoming every few months. How's the leg? Kira asked. Good, better. Still kicks up in cold weather, but I'll survive. He paused. There's talk of bringing you back, as instructor, teaching next generation of snipers. I'm done with that life, Wyatt. I know, but if you ever change your mind, I won't. He nodded, accepting it. Then I'll just keep visiting. Somebody's got to make sure you're staying out of trouble. Kira smiled. I appreciate that. That evening, after veterans had gone home and center was quiet, Kira stood at window watching snowfall, soft and gentle. Nothing like blizzard that had changed everything. Letter sat unopened on her desk. From General Patterson at Pentagon, asking again if she would reconsider Medal of Honor, asking if she would return to service. She would answer eventually, would politely decline, again. But not today. Today she had helped 3 veterans take steps toward healing, had taught young men how to manage nightmares, had made difference in ways that didn't involve bullets or blood. Photo sat on her desk, 7 people in combat gear, smiling for camera before mission. Jake, Lisa, Matt, Rachel, Ethan, Amy, Isaac. Her team, her friends, her ghosts. I hope you're proud of me, she whispered to them. I hope wherever you are, you can see that I'm trying, that I'm using what you taught me to help people instead of hurt them. Snow continued to fall. Somewhere in distance, veterans she'd helped last month was having dinner with family. Alive, healing, home. Lieutenant Beckett was teaching class on leadership, starting every session with, check your assumptions about people. I once met someone extraordinary and mistook her for trash because I didn't bother to look deeper. Captain Reeves was back at FOB Sentinel, telling new arrivals legend of Silent Angel, janitor who became hero, woman who proved that rank mattered less than character, and Kira Blackwood, former captain, former sniper, former ghost, stood in her recovery center and knew she had finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not disappearance, not anonymity, not death. Peace. The kind that came from saving one life at a time. The kind her mother tried to teach her before cancer stole her voice. The kind that said, you don't have to be weaponed to be strong. You don't have to kill to have purpose. You don't have to be silent angel to matter. You just have to be present, to help, to heal. One day at a time, one veteran at a time. One choice at a time to build instead of destroy. Outside, snow-covered world in white. Clean, new, promising that even worst wounds could be buried under enough beauty. Kira Blackwood smiled. Silent Angel was finally, truly at rest.